down and figure out what went wrong. And he sat down with me. He looked at my business plan for Love and Water, and he just kind of took one look at it and said, "Oh my God, like, what were you thinking?" And exactly what you want to hear.
Right, exactly. That's the
and I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, he's like, "I just don't know when you creative people are going to learn, to be honest with you." He's like, there is no financial plan attached to this business plan. Like, your marketing plan looks really great, but what was your goal? What were you going for? Where's the money? Like, where's the financial part of it? And he just really laid it out for me step by step on how, because my question was, well, why do I need that in the beginning? At that time, that genuinely was my question, because I had talked to a lot of other business owners who looked at my plan, and they all were like, "Yo, you're good to go." And, come to find later that a lot of those owners were struggling in their own businesses more than I realized at the time. And it really took, this man to say to me, this is only 10% of businesses in the U.S., small businesses, survive every year. And the ones that survive, this is why. Because they know the importance and how necessary it is to set a goal financially with your marketing. And so when I asked that question, like, why is it necessary? And he explained it to me, I said, okay, that does make perfect sense. And then he said, well, let's test it out on the American Cancer Society. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. Like, you're going to put me on the American Cancer Society? He's like, yes, I'm going to put you on the American Cancer Society. You're going to organize this whole event from an online marketing standpoint. I'm going to go to Paris on vacation for 2 weeks. And when I come back, he's like, and you can't call me either. You've got to work with the vice president of the ACS and deal with her and just do what we've laid out here and, follow the steps. And I did, and it worked. I mean, it was a really successful event. And but most importantly, we hit the financial goal. That was the whole point. And so once I saw that, he was like my hero for life. And I'm so indebted to him. And he then helped me, bring on some more clients for myself. And I started my own consulting company doing the same for other small business owners.
Oh, wow.
That's how I really learned how to market successfully.
Okay. And then from that experience, how long was it until you started the Artisan Business company?
Well, it was my goal the whole time to do that. Love and Water Designs was kind of I wanted to have a business that helped other artists. And so that, any business I started, it was like, I want to help other artists and I want to be able to give back to the charities that are meaningful to me. And so it was, while I was doing this other consulting work, I was kind of like, making a great, building a great business. And I was also applying it to my own writing. I became a member of the Writers Guild at that point. And so I was able to, get a lot of work using these techniques as a writer. I ghost wrote a book. I edited another book. I had so many incredible writing jobs along the way that contributed to my 6-figure income and some choreography as well. So, but it was always my goal to come back to helping other artists. And so over these last 2 years, I started to put together a group of people, of artists who were interested in building their businesses. And I put together a course where I got to test out the techniques I had learned in a course format to see how that would work. And I had now had 550 artists take that course, and some of them have seen just extraordinary results. So I've been able to really refine it and now have transitioned from doing that consulting work just right into the artisan business, solely working on that.
I'm really excited that you said that you tested this out a lot, because I know a lot of people, they have some ideas and they just kind of create something which they think needs to be perfect the first time, and then either get discouraged along the way there, or put it up and then are again discouraged that it didn't turn out the way they thought it did, because they just created it kind of in a vacuum. Whereas you brought this and tested it with actual artists. How did you find your first few, I would say the first few artists that you worked with? Were they friends of yours, or just people that you had business acquaintance with?
Well, it's really funny because, once you have a business that fails and fails like really hard within the first year, well, I'll speak for myself. I had a business fail really hard within the first year. And we talk about like switching over to being extraordinarily conservative in terms of like how I was going to test this until I knew it was right. And what I also learned was that friends and family are not necessarily my ideal clients. Even though many of them were artists, I truly wanted to reach the artists who were ready for something like this. So I didn't reach out to my friends. I let them know about it, but if they weren't like immediately interested, it was clear that I just let it go. So I relied on direct outreach, sort of marketing through social media, putting the word out, and using Facebook ads. And it was Facebook ads where I really found the sweet spot of the group of artists who would started to really respond. And that's how I got the first people in to take the course.
Now that you've been doing it for a couple of years, what are some of the biggest problems that you've noticed that artists have in regard to starting and running businesses? So I mainly work with female artists between the ages of 30 and 50, who, again, are serious about building businesses with their art. And almost 100% across the board, the main challenge they all face, which was the same one I faced, even though I had an uncle who was talking to me about the stock market, and I actually traded in the stock market and did understand finance, to a greater degree than most people. I still had the same challenge in starting my business, which was the financial component of the business and how to run that. And there are, again, it's almost across the board. I think there are some really specific reasons that we, as artists, struggle with the financial side of a business and finances in general, and specifically as women as well. There's been very little, we're not exposed to it at all. It's not a part of our dialogue from a really young age or even into adulthood. Many of the women who take my course have never even thought about their financial life, like never looked at their personal finances, have always had somebody else do it for them. And even if they have looked at it, it's something they dread, they're not enjoying because they don't know how to approach it correctly or in a way that could benefit them. It doesn't feel good to them to do, so they don't do it. And then there's a terrible feeling that they're left with because they know that they should be dealing with it, but they don't, they can't even like broach the subject. And a lot of them feel like they've gone so long without dealing with it that like, how could they just kind of pick it up now? Mm-hmm. And they're afraid of what they're going to realize, or what they're going to see if they do. So that's the long and the short of that's the main challenge. Everything else in terms of running a business, I feel artists are have it covered, are hardwired to do the best. They're passionate about what they have to offer. They are genuinely interested in connecting with those who resonate with their work. Those two things alone are what, is the crux of what creates an incredible business, a really promising business. But without the financial piece, that's you can't really move.
So with the financial piece, and I know it is a huge component, and I myself have struggled with the financial piece in the past as well, because of the fact that you're right. Like as an artist growing up in that world, that I never had a conversation about the money part, because I was the creative, and we always, even in the theater world, it was, well, that's what the theater managers and the producers, they deal with the money side, or your agent, you deal with the creative side, and you don't think about that, which then leads to all kinds of uncomfortable conversations later on when you're like, well, I haven't gotten paid for this, and what's going on with that. I'm curious, how do you then approach the subject with your clients in a way that makes finances more comfortable for them?
Oh gosh, that's such a great question. When I first started the course, when I first put it out to the first group of people I tested it on, so the first 100 to 150 people who took the course, the way that I presented it was it's a 14-day course, and the objective is to get in and out of the course as quickly as possible, so you can start taking real action in your business, so that you're not allowed to linger in the course and find comfort in the material there, to kind of as a way of avoiding taking action. So the first 4 days of the course is laying out the creative side of your business. What is your why? What is your vision for your art? What do you see happening? Then what's the mission of your business? So it's setting up that structure, clarifying your offer. And so everybody was getting really into that, because as artists, it's like, yes, let's dive into that creative side and get really detailed about it. And then days 5 and 6 were, okay, now what is your financial baseline for your personal life and for your business? And let's separate the two. And then day 6 is, now let's come up with a 12-month financial plan. And 95% of the people would drop off on those 2 days, and they just did not want to do it. And no matter how I worded it, didn't matter. It was like, this is not what we're going to do. Then they would come back on day 7. It's like all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, we had to take days 5 and 6 off. Every single person. And then here we are back again, ready to go. And so I was like, wow, I worked really hard to create incentives and motivating factors to keep them engaged with those days, and really give them, honestly, it was just letting them know, I know how hard this is. But if you don't do this, you aren't going to see results. I can promise you that. Your results are going to be sporadic at best. So if you do see some results now, that's exciting, but you have to know with a business, you need to create consistency and predictability. And the only way that you're going to do that is if you get this handled right now. So I did everything. I even created a bitch and moan thread in the Facebook group for them to come in and talk about, why it was so harder, because they would, all sorts of emotions come up around money. Mm-hmm. It was actually these 2 days and this experience actually, motivated me to create my second course, which is called the Profit Canvas. And it's a deeper look into how to run the financial side of your business. And the first thing we deal with in that course is your emotional relationship to money and what that even means, because everyone's emotions around money during these 2 days were just, what's the word I'm looking for? Irrational at best. And, everybody was like, I don't like to be, a lot of people didn't like that they were going through that. There was this is interrupting my life. The fact that I'm getting so emotional over this. I don't want to have to deal with this. And my response is that it's because money is something that we deal with every single day. Every single person has to. We all have to, negotiate